Well, as I mentioned, we are here at Crazy Mountain Brewing at Colfax and Ogden downtown, of course. CrazyMountainBrewery.com is the website. Excited to have Drew Creasman here, the host of the 20th and Blake podcast, and the inspiration for the 20th and Blake American IPA that they made right here.
Yeah, I love it. This is one of my favorite places. I just got to be honest, tell you, this is one of my favorite places in the whole world. I love being down Crazy Mountain Brewery. It's my local watering hole, as it were, and so I love that we've gotten to work with them. My guy Robbie is out here serving us some 20th and Blakes, and I'm excited.
He was giving Nate the bunny ears a couple of minutes ago too, so.
As well he should.
Yeah, naturally it makes sense. So the Rockies, obviously, this has been a bad start. It could have been worse. They did win yesterday to at least not have the worst start in modern era of baseball. By the way, the modern era of baseball, if you're thinking modern, it's a relative term when you're talking about baseball.
Yeah.
The relative modern era in baseball starts in 1901.
Right.
So if we're talking about a team that just avoided having the worst start in 125 years, it has been a disaster. I'm going to look a little bit on the bright side to start with you, Drew.
Okay.
Chase Dollander got that win.
Yeah.
Now, he had to leave the game, unfortunately, with a cracked nail, but he got that win. He has 25 strikeouts in his first 5 starts. That's the 4th most in any for any Rocky in the team history.
Right.
And obviously, this is not a good baseball team. But if it's ever going to stop being a bad baseball team, they need guys like Chase Dollander to bubble up. And I think, at least in these first handful of starts, so far so good. You know, he didn't immediately set the world on fire like a Paul Skeens or something like that. But I think, given what you had hoped for, he has been what was advertised.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you look at the fact that he basically has got 1 year in the minor leagues, jumping between 2 levels. This is not a guy who's been a professional for very long. And, you know, I was doing this a bit, Shawn, where he comes up and you kind of circle certain lineups. You go, well, maybe that start against the A's or that one against the Nationals, he should do better against those teams and then you maybe say, well, against the Padres or the Braves, those are some real teams. He's going to, and those are his 2 best starts, actually.
I mean, he matched against, by the way, Chris Sale,
one of the best pitchers of the generation,
right.
if not that's still to be determined. But, and, Sale went longer. He showed, a certain amount of efficiency or whatever. But what also you've seen with Dollander is that it actually doesn't matter so much who he's going up against. When he has command of his stuff, he can beat anybody. When he does not have command of his stuff, he leaves it right in the middle of the plate and it ends up going over the wall.
Yeah. He has surrendered 8 home runs in 25 innings. Now, that will get better. Because I also look at it, especially with young pitchers, and they're giving up home runs. I'm like, you know what? You're pounding the strike zone, and you're learning what major league hitters can do. Yeah. So I would rather a young pitcher give up home runs here and there because you're working on getting ahead in the count. You're pounding the strike zone. That's how you're going to get through deeper into games. That's how you're going to, I think, have a better career. And as you go through this league for the first time, these guys are really good.
Yeah.
Chase Dollander was a really good college player, but everybody here was a stud in college. Right. Everybody here was good in their high school or whatever. Right. They were all really good. And you're going to learn that you just can't throw these by major league hitters. But you know what? Sometimes you just have to put your hand on the stove to find out exactly how hot it is. And I look at the start for Dollander, and I look at those home runs, and I'm like, get back to me at All-Star break if he's still coughing them up at that rate. Right now, you're learning the league. And you're throwing strikes, and some of these guys are hitting them out. I'd rather you throw strikes and have them get hit out and earn them than walk guys, because walking guys in Coors Field is what puts up the crooked numbers, and that's how you lose even more than they've lost already.
Yep, absolutely. And you saw it in that game against Atlanta. He was attacking a very, very good and hot lineup that came into that game. Stroking it, and on a Wednesday afternoon, an afternoon warm day at Coors Field, and he was able to show, you just put it on the edges.
Right.
The one thing he did better in that start that he's done in his others is keeping guys off the fastball a little bit by throwing his breaking stuff and off speed in the zone early in counts. That's a great adjustment for a 23-year-old to be making.
Especially if he can still still throwing strikes with him too.
Exactly. And then he's putting guys away more with the fastball.
Right.
And so you've seen that, and that's stopped guys from jumping on it that way. So like you said, he's already making the kinds of adjustments that you'd love to see veteran guys make. And and he sits on 99 with the fastball with a cutter that when he locates indicates it is unhittable.
Yeah.
It's his curveball against Atlanta was actually probably his best pitch. He was getting some ugly swings and misses on that. So I think the future is very, very bright for Chase Dollander, with the big caveat of in his first year, he's going to learn welcome to the big leagues a few times. Yeah.
Right. And that's going to happen as well. We'll look at a couple of the pitchers. Yesterday in that 2-1 win, Zach Agnos got his first major league save. Agnos only 6 innings, obviously, into his major league career. But he does get that save. Not a big strikeout guy for the most part, but a guy that does throw strikes.
Yes.
And for the Rockies, sometimes, again, that's what you need to do. When you're going to come in and try to close games at Coors Field, the one thing you can't do is walk guys.
Right.
Cannot walk guys. But tell us a little bit about Agnos, the 24-year-old out of Virginia.
Yeah, I love this guy. He's somebody who I think has just snuck through the Rockies system, very under the radar. Never, like you said, because he doesn't have a huge fastball. It does sit on like 96, 97.
Right.
Let's not undercut the guy. But it's a 4-pitch mix. He has very good command of those 4 pitches. And on any given day, he can use them to get you out. And so while he doesn't pile up the strikeouts, you go and look at this guy's minor league numbers. They're some of the best that any pitcher has ever put up for the Rockies in the minor leagues ever. You're talking about sub-2 ERAs. Like I said, not huge strikeout numbers, but walk rates that are sitting in the 1.5 per 9 innings at times. And that's what you're talking about here. He's not going to give up free passes, and he doesn't give up a lot of home runs. In order to get at this guy so far through his career, and now again at the major league level, we're 6 innings.
6 innings in, right?
But still, it's held true at the majors that he's given up some singles. He's not giving up homers, doubles, none of that stuff. In order to get after him, you got to string innings together. And as you and I have talked about, the Rockies are not the only team in Major League Baseball who doesn't really do that anymore.
Right. Right. You're absolutely right. That's very, very real. And so that there's obviously some advantage in starting to get some of that bullpen filled up. Jake Bird is familiar. He's been with the Rockies now for a little bit, 29 years old. This year, despite the fact that the Rockies' horrible start, it hasn't been Jake Bird's fault, whose ERA sits at 0.95, 0.95, 26 strikeouts in 19 innings. And right now he's on a career-long 11 2/3 inning scoreless streak. For a guy that you can use in multiple spots in relief. He's been really valuable, and give credit to Bird for being able to be a consistent stabilizer in a season that has had no stability whatsoever.
Right, at all. He's legitimately been one of the best relievers in baseball. And if you had to pick an all-star for the Rockies right now, or still it's probably Jake Bird.
And eventually someone will.
It's probably going to be Bird.
It probably would be.
But the other thing that I like, even as you've talked about, he's kept his ERA clean. He's kept those strikeout numbers high. I love the way he's handled the inherited base runners, because that's been something where, again, the Rockies are down in every category. Pick one there. You're like, now they're at the bottom. But one that's really, truly killed them in a game-to-game basis is they got the bases loaded with 2 outs, and you can't just they always hit the ball in the gap in that situation, or you walk a guy, base hit, and then there's no getting out of any of that. One thing that Jake Bird has been a godsend when you watch these games is he can come into that situation in the 6th or 7th when the younger reliever has gotten himself into trouble and clean it up without it getting completely out of hand. And Jake Bird has been easily the best guy in that bullpen.
Yeah, so there are some good signs, and tonight I guess we'll touch on the pitching. It has not been the easiest start for Kyle Freeland. Obviously, it hasn't been as bad as Herman Marquez is coming back from injury, but Freeland takes the hill tonight against the Giants, and for Kyle Freeland, it's going to be a big one, because I think this kind of snuck up on a lot of people. This will be start 207 in the Rockies uniform. Okay. That will be the new Rockies record for the most starts ever from a pitcher.
Hey, that even snuck up on me. Normally, you got me with one, Shawn. Normally, I'm on top of those things, but you know what? That's really cool. Kyle has more than earned that. I think he's been better throughout his career. Most people know that 1 year he was great in 2018.
Sure.
And a lot of people you talk to go, other than that, he's been average, and he actually hasn't. He's been better than the league average for most of his career. Struggled these last couple of years. As you mentioned, he's like a guy trying to carry a baseball team and the hopes of baseball fans in a city on his shoulders.
You're not far removed from the truth there,
and like that's a lot to carry for a guy. But it's really cool to see him come up on those kinds of milestones. Like I said, more than earned it. It'd be great to see him lock in a little bit, like you said, not pitching so great this season, even though I feel like a lot of like that sweeper's a real weapon for him. The changeup has been good. There have been signs, but like everybody on the team. I said this on the 20th and Blake show the other day, Shawn. I said, in baseball, you know, that the phrase we only talk about guys getting off the schneid.
Right.
We never ever talk about anybody being on the schneid. We never say that guy's on the schneid right now. But the entire team, outside of Jake Bird and Jordan Beck, on the schneid.
Yep. Freeland 0-4 with a 5.93 ERA. Tries to get that. He will pass Aaron Cook tonight, they both have 206. He'll pass Aaron Cook for the most starts in Rockies history. Well, let's turn our attention then, because we have to the offense, where things have not been as good. Brenton Doyle did get off the schneid, 0 for 20 at bat streak, hits a home run, obviously a big part of that 2-1 win.
Yeah.
But I went back and looked at wins above replacement, right? A kind of a newer baseball metric that people use, kind of a catch-all. And it's a cumulative one, so it requires over the course of a season to build. It's not an average like most baseball stats.
Right.
But at the moment, among hitters alone, the Rockies have 4 hitters that have a positive wins above replacement. 4. They have 12 that are negative.
Yeah.
That is a problem. I mean, the 4, by the way, Hunter Goodman, who is tied with Jordan Beck for the best batting average on the team at 268. Brenton Doyle at a 0.3. Jordan Beck, even in his only 56 at bats, at 0.2. And Nick Martini in his 58 at bats has a 0.1.
Wow.
3 players. Owen Miller's only had 4 at bats. Tovar, who is of course hurt right now. Aaron Schunk, who's only played in 7 games. They have a 0.
All at 0.
Everybody else is negative. And that is being brought up by Michael Tolia right now and Chris Bryant. But Tolia, they both have minus 0.5. Tolia at least has done it at 105 bats. Chris Bryant did it in 39.
Woo!
39 at bats in 11 games, a minus half a game wins above replacement. This offense is abysmal.
Yeah.
The strikeouts are through. This team has already struck out 312 times in 30 games. They average more than 10 a game.
Yes. That I can attest to, because I watch them all.
If you could just, I tell you what, if you could just whip up a power generator to those windmills that they keep doing at the home plate, you could power Coors Field on that.
You certainly could. The one thing I will say about this is, one, I really feel for Ryan McMahon, who has frankly been the worst hitter on the team.
He is actually now on an 0 for 34 streak. Yeah. That is the longest such streak in the history of the Rockies.
Yeah.
At least for a position player, you don't count pitchers on that.
Sure.
But this is the longest 0 for streak any Rockies position player has ever had.
Yeah.
And we'll see if he extends it tonight. But it's been bad.
It's been atrocious. And he was one guy who you really hoped could be a little bit of a steady part for this team.
This is the second April in a row in which underwhelming would have been nice. He's been bad the last 2 Aprils.
Right. And so, but we also know he can get really, really hot. He's done this throughout his career. He's the one guy in the lineup where you go, well, okay, he has a history of being this cold and then getting hot. You do wonder with the young players, as you and I have talked about, you got to have a longer leash there. I did think on this last homestand, you saw a better version, or really for the last week and a half, 10 days, Michael Tolia has started to look better. I know the overall numbers haven't adjusted yet, but he's hitting the ball hard. He's putting it in play. He's getting some slugging. That's the one main thing. He's at least hit a couple homers, a couple doubles in there. Adael Amador's really been struggling, but he's at least not striking out. Again, we're back to silver linings. You're taking them where you can. What do these guys have to build on? As you mentioned, I think the biggest silver lining of all of it is the way Jordan Beck was so bad he had to get sent down. Reset everything, got a mental break, came back up, and then hit 5 home runs in 2 days.
He has played in 20 games of the Rockies' 30 between the time where he was sent down. He is tied for the team lead in home runs with Hunter Goodman. He is also tied for the team lead in batting average with Hunter Goodman. And this is, I guess, the one reason that I'm not complaining right now about Zach Veen being sent down with you. Now, Veen, much like Beck, looked overwhelmed to start. And the funny thing is, we expected that. But 14 strikeouts in 34 at-bats, just too much. Beck was healthy. They swapped him out. But maybe there is something to, at least in Beck's case, and he was up for a time last year as well before he got hurt. But look at the majors, get used to the majors, realize, that's what it looks like. Then go down for a couple weeks, slow it down, but then say, hey, when I go back up, now I know what to expect. And so seeing what you're seeing from Jordan Beck makes me a little more optimistic of what we might see, hopefully in not too long a time, from Zach Veen.
And I've talked to these guys about this. I remember one of the first conversations I ever had with somebody back when Ryan McMahon was a rookie. I'm starting to feel old, Shawn.
Yeah.
But back then and talk, because he went up back and forth a lot of times back in 2017 in that year. It ended up hitting a big home run against the Dodgers late in the season. And I know people were frustrated, said they're not giving this kid enough time. But I remember talking to McMahon and saying, I needed to go back to the minors and do exactly what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
But there's also a mental thing these guys can do. You're no longer batting $150 on the season. When you come back up from AAA, you're batting zero. You got nothing. You're starting your stats from today.
Yeah.
So Jordan Beck comes
count,
back up.
but obviously,
sure. But in your mind,
you're
going,
fresh.
Hey, since coming back, I'm hitting this. I've hit X number of homers. I'm doing all that, and now he's hitting second in the order. I mean, who else is Buddy going to hit there?
Right. And he's got speed.
And he's got
the other thing, Jordan Beck leads the team in steals with 4.
Yeah. There was something really funny to me in the game. I'm trying to remember if it was Atlanta or right before that, but he started getting like walked on 4 pitches. Like suddenly Jordan Beck's the most feared guy in the lineup.
Right.
But it's true. And sometimes when you start to get that confidence, every ball player will tell you when you're in one of those huge slumps, the best cure for it is seeing the ball fall into the grass or go over the wall and you go, right, I can do it. That's what it feels like. I remember how it goes. Ryan McMahon is desperately searching for that feeling right now.
Well, yeah, you were saying, you come back and you go, I'm not hitting $150. Ryan McMahon isn't hitting $150.
Oh,
he's hitting 147, which is just a disaster. So for this team now they go on to face the Giants. My question would be, given the depth of the NL West, and it is very deep. ESPN did its power rankings, and they actually talked about which teams are contenders in the early going. Now that we're about a fifth of the way through the season, the other 4 teams in the NL West were all in it,
right?
All of them,
yeah.
And you get the Giants tonight, obviously, for this weekend series. That's a better place to pitch, hard place to hit.
Yep.
But you talk about again how the Rockies, when they go from home to road historically, because of the way that the altitude works, it might be that actually, I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would imagine that going from Denver directly to the Bay might be the worst possible place to start a road trip for the Rockies. Because now you're talking about the heavy air, the cool that comes in, the wind that comes in. It really makes everything move out there. This could be a really tough series for the Rockies.
Yeah.
How important is it that they just don't get, I wouldn't say buried on the road trip, because they are buried. They're not going. They're buried.
It's 5-20.
But is there a point where you worry that it's so bad that for some of these guys, whether it's maybe veterans or rookies, that the wheels start to fall off and guys start to check out a little bit early? You hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
But human nature is human nature.
Yeah. I think less than checking out with this group, I worry about them putting so much pressure on themselves to do better. Because last time I was in the clubhouse just a few days ago, it felt weird in there, man. Like it's exactly what you're talking about. It's guys like just everyone's on edge and everyone's trying to hit a 5-run home run with the bases empty or strike, all this stuff. And I do think if I could give one word of advice to the entire clubhouse, it would be relax.
You can't get this all back at once.
And you're not going to win anything this year.
No.
Frankly, and it would be tough to even say that to those guys. But look, you're 5-20. You're 20 games under 500, 25 games into the season.
So just relax. Take
relax.
a deep breath. There's everything bad that can happen already happened.
Has happened.
It's
happened. It has happened.
As good as it's, there's nowhere to go but up at this point.
Because this is a bad baseball team, to be sure, but it's also largely an inexperienced one, and they're not this bad. The wheels haven't 100% come off for Ryan McMahon at 30 years old. He hasn't forgotten how to play the game of baseball. The whole team just needs to take a deep breath, relax a little bit. Again, see a couple of those balls fall down into the grass out there and go, oh, yeah, okay, I belong here. But I'm with you. They need some of those. Yesterday they needed that so bad. Having their guy, their leader, their captain, and Brenton Doyle back is going to help. Not having Tovar has really hurt as well.
It has.
But I worry less about them checking out and more about them putting so much pressure on themselves that some of these guys never get it back. And some of these cornerstones like Adiel Amador, you're hoping is going to be your next DJ LeMahieu at second base for a long time. And
if he's not, quite frankly, the Rockies have a problem.
Right. They need him to be.
Yeah. Some of these guys have to bubble up. They have to.
Exactly. But they don't need to do it right this second.
Correct.
And they need to understand that. The team needs to understand
2025 season's over. This is more, in a lot of ways, for these young players and for the Rockies as well. They probably need to look at it and say, we're envisioning how we feel about this team when the season ends.
Right.
We're looking towards 2026. And we go, wow, Adel Amador locked down the second base job. Our outfield next year is going to be Jordan Beck, Brenton Doyle, and Zach Veen.
Right.
We like that. Hunter Goodman's played well, but maybe Jeromo's knocking on the door.
Right.
Maybe Michael Tolia gets a little bit better here, and you realize even though he's going to be a guy that strikes out a lot in his career, if he's still making enough contact and getting the power, you can live with it. Tovar, it's probably just, in this case, it's just staying healthy. But you can envision what it should look like.
Right.
And you're right. And for the Rockies, it's going to require sort of a mental reset and say, hey, we're not worried about everything right now. Don't try to get it all back at once. But they do have an opportunity tonight. We talk about, obviously, Freeland is looking for his first win.
Right.
Well, the future Hall of Famer facing him is also looking for his first win in Justin Verlander at 42 years old. His ERA at 4.99, not all that much better than Freeland. So maybe there's a window here that the Rockies can start stringing a couple together. And the first thing we don't read every morning is comparing them to the 88 Orioles where that was one of the most famous teams because one of their local broadcasters lived up on a billboard for like 3 weeks waiting for them to get a win. They've had 2 8-game losing streaks sandwiched around a win prior to yesterday.
Yeah.
The other one 1-16. You need to just get a couple things. So every morning, it's not like what historically bad thing are the Colorado Rockies doing.
Oh, absolutely.
Just that's step one, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I will say, I would not have thought that the way the team got back into the win column was going to be, Chris Sale
2-1 over Chris Sale.
Yeah,
right.
So baseball is a funny game in that way. And just like with the pitchers, I think it's going to take just having a couple of good games. You never know when it's going to come. I'm not counting on it coming against the Giants right now in these next 4 games. You never know. But no, I am with you there. It's like not having the historic terribleness of it and really just seeing those numbers from all of those young guys coming up and up. Oh, speaking of young guys.
Yeah, there you go.
Cheers. I'd say to Robbie, just throw down that whole thing. Oh, you guys embarrassed me. Come on. Look at these young guys.
I love they're making him do this right in the middle of it like we're working, but that's fine. Go for it.
Now, continue your thought.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm sure I was saying something profound about Kyle Freeland or the Giants.
Yeah, no, but you have to find a way to get it right. And you know what? Step one would be, we talked about it before, put the bat on the ball. 312 strikeouts leads the major leagues. And you look at it, and not by that much. The New York Yankees are second with 296. But the Rockies have 26 home runs. The Yankees have 53.
Good
the
torpedo bats.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny about those too, because the torpedo bats, you'll notice that tapered off. But what it really means is if you barrel it up, it's going. And certain people like Aaron Judge can barrel it up and then hit 412 in the month. But you'll also notice a lot of that stuff cooled. Jazz Chisholm on the
that was never
cooled off, right? If you're not barreling it up, the torpedo bats are actually a disaster,
right?
Because now you're barely hitting it with anything, and you're just hopping it back to the mound.
Yeah.
So I look at it, and I don't worry about the bats. That's a skill thing. Still, if you can barrel it up, it's to your advantage. But it's hard to barrel up Major League pitching. But if you are not a power hitting team, and when you look at the bottom 6 teams in strikeouts, the only team that's worse or that's lower in home runs is the Pirates. It's not even that much. And if you go even further down that's the only team in the bottom 12 in strikeouts that has fewer home runs than the Rockies. So the Rockies have to, and they're not exactly killing it in extra base hits either, in doubles and triples.
No.
So this team has got to put the bat on the ball. Striking out 10 times a game and the Rockies are the only team that's doing that.
Right.
That is absolutely untenable. You cannot build an offense that way. You cannot put up crooked numbers in an inning when you're giving away that many outs. And I know this has become a swing and miss league. I get that. But if you can't put the bat on the ball, you have tough times winning any games, let alone stringing wins together, because sometimes in this long season, you have to find an inning. This game, you got an inning where you put up 4.
Yeah.
This is one of those innings where somehow you put up 6 runs.
Yeah.
And it's about creating big innings and preventing big innings. And the problem is the Rockies have been really bad at both for different reasons.
Yep.
Because of the pitching staff the way it is and because the hitters just keep striking out.
Well, like on the flip side, because the pitchers aren't striking out enough guys on the other side of
Right.
it. And that's where you get into that. But I couldn't agree with you more about this contact thing. It's something I've been a big fan of. Oh, by the way,
but the Rockies pitching staff, 201 strikeouts.
Yeah.
Dead last in the league.
Yeah,
so that's a bad combo. If you are striking out the fewest batters,
right,
and as the batters you are striking out the most, 30th place in both.
Well, that'll make you 5 and 25.
League.
Shawn.
Yeah, that makes you 5. You want to know why they're 5 and 25? That's why you're not missing bats as a pitching staff, and you're not getting the ball on it as an offense. I mean, that is literally like the worst possible combination.
It absolutely
that is the snake eyes of the you're like. As bad as it gets.
It is as bad as it gets. And it's one of the reasons why I do think, in fact, I've got a piece almost fully written for milehighsports.com right now. And it basically begins with, this is as bad as it can get.
Oh, when you miss, don't miss bats, by the way.
Yeah.
You surrender a 292 opponent's batting average.
Woo!
Want to guess what that one is? If you were guessing like everything else I've said, dead last 30th. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And I do think some of those stats are going to change. We don't know which ones, but I don't think this team is going to end dead last in all three of those single category.
Ooh, okay.
Is that a bet we can take right now? What are the? Good Lord.
I don't love it.
I don't.
Look, okay, they're not going to finish dead last in batting average as a team, even though yes, they are 211.
That's amazing.
Coors Field will give you something.
I was going to say that's probably almost impossible.
They're batting 211 as a team.
That's almost impossible.
I mean, nothing is going right except for Jake Bird and Jordan Beck. Are there any other guys in the system with the initials JB? Can we grab any of them?
just get
that's apparently all that's working.
The JBs, right? No, and that actually, Shawn, exactly what you just said is, look, maybe it's too much of my baseball brain that says guys play to their career numbers.
They generally do.
They generally do.
That's true.
And right now, every single guy on the team, except for JBs, are playing so far below their career numbers. I'm just going to look. Ryan McMahon's going to get hit eventually.
Well, he's not going to finish at 147.
You're right. Some of these other guys, you don't know. But with the younger players, again, it's a less of a known commodity. But I do think there's a lot of chance for you to look in there and say, hey, it can't stay this bad. It can remain close to as bad.
It can.
It can, but I don't think it will. Even if they keep losing games, they're going to start getting hits. They're going to start hitting some random home runs, having some random nice outings by the pitchers that then get blown by the bullpen, although the bullpen's actually
been the best part of the pitching staff.
Give some credit. You mentioned Agno. Seth Halverson also lately has been very good.
Yep.
But it's like, man, they're going to string together a few random stretches where they just get some 4-1 wins because that's the game of baseball. But you really want to start seeing it out of those specific players.
Yeah.
And that for me is like Tolia striking out and not hitting it all is so much worse than these other guys because you hope he's a big part of your future, right? The Zach Veen thing, Adiel Amador, but he's 22. So you're like, yeah, he's okay. But these other guys, you want to see them taking those big steps forward. And other than Jordan Beck and Hunter Goodman, you really haven't seen that. So show us signs. They're not going to start winning baseball games. They're not going to get back into the hunt in the NL West that has 4 of the best teams in baseball in it. That's not going to happen. But even if you're losing 6-4,
you're in games.
Yeah, you're scoring 4 runs on the road against a good Giants team.
Right.
You're staying competitive. You got your guys out there fighting for something in the 8th and 9th inning and learning what that feels like, right?
Nowhere to go but up for the Rockies, as we mentioned, the 30th and a whole bunch of things, including standings, of course, maybe the one that counts the most, dead last in baseball. They get 4 now in this extended weekend series with the Giants before coming back home. Maybe they get something going at least. We're not dancing with this. If they lose 3 in a row, they're back to being the worst after 33 starts or something like that.
Right.
See if they can break that off. But Drew Creasman, a host of the 20th and Blake podcast, make sure you check that out. The inspiration for the 20th and Blake American IPA right there. Make sure you check that out as well. You can grab that right here at Crazy Mountain Brewing, or when you're down at number 38, you can also get that where our new Mile High Sports studio is. But since we were in your neck of the woods, we thought, hey, we needed to check in on the Rockies.
Love it.
Probably not good. It's okay if you're not watching them tonight. We get it. There's there's a basketball game and a hockey game of some importance this evening.
If I'm the only one staying up to midnight to watch a 5-25 team play this is a California game.
I've said it before. This man deserves hazard pay for having to cover that baseball team. Hopefully something turns around for your sake. If nothing else, Drew Creasman, thanks so much for joining us. It's been fun being out here at Crazy Mountain. Thanks to Robbie and the crew for having us. Looking forward to maybe doing this again sometime too. Obviously, you can see it's a really cool place. The location is phenomenal, and of course, they make great beer. So I mean, that's kind of the reason to come down. But they got the whole package right here. Thanks to Crazy Mountain for having us down on Colfax and Ogden. Check them out, crazymountainbrewery.com. Looking forward to visiting again. But that'll do it for us here, at least for a little while.